back again. Hunt for the Fallen Star, Chapter 6. You've got to be joking, hissed Layla. James's voice was quiet and edged with tension. No time for that. Casey's right. Going inside is our best option. If there were half as many, we might stand a chance out here. But we're outnumbered and outgunned. The only real advantage we have right now is that they don't know where we are. Anxiety rose in Layla's voice. But we'll be trapped like goldfish in there. They've tracked us here. They'll easily find where we went. We'll have to shut the door, whispered Heather as she looked hesitantly inside the stone doorway, and hope they don't figure out how to open it. She paused. And hope there's another way out. We'll suffocate, said Layla, her voice a soft whimper of defeat. Maybe, said James, but odds are higher we'll die out here. I don't think they brought AKs and SKSs for a barbecue we'd like. There's probably enough air for us to survive in there. It's not like the door was sealed airtight. Maybe we could just give them the crystal, suggested Heather. What? Exclaimed Layla, her whisper elevated. Casey raised an eyebrow at Layla's reaction, but his head shook in disagreement at Heather. I don't think handing the crystal over will keep them from shooting us. Let's see if they're even coming up, suggested Layla. Maybe they'll just move on? Not likely, but okay, said James reluctantly. It'd be good to know where they are. Casey and I will go back out to check. But we didn't do much to disguise our little hike up here. You two get inside and wait. If they're coming, we can get in and shut the door quickly. I'd prefer to go see, said Layla, her eyes darting apprehensively into the darkness beyond the small doorway. Fine, said James. Casey, give me the gun. You and Heather get ready to close the door. Layla, stay low and out of sight. You take the right, I'll look down the left. Casey handed the 9mm handgun to James and entered the low doorway with Heather. Casey fumbled in his pack for a couple seconds before retrieving a flashlight and handing it to Heather. He slipped a headlamp on for himself. Outside, James and Layla cautiously exited the ruins and moved towards the long stone stairway. James motioned to Layla to keep down and quiet as they inched towards their respective corners of the pyramid top and peered down. Along the wall at the pyramid's base, 8 figures carefully moved around assorted rainforest plants and trees, like wolves trying to locate the scent of their prey. 4 went left towards the stairs and 3 scouted to the right. The man in the beret stood still, his black camouflage making him look like an eerie jungle shadow. Unlike at the camp, the man now held an assault rifle. The beret tilted upward as he looked toward the peaks. Even from the pyramid top, the man's cold, dark eyes sent shivers up James's spine. James felt a fear to enter him, like he'd been discovered and needed to run. He fought the urge and forced himself to be perfectly still. The gaze moved slowly to his right. Layla stifled a gasp when she saw the man stare in her direction. Instantly, the assault rifle lifted and quickly fired off 2 rounds. Dirt, rock chips, and vegetation exploded in front of Layla as she ducked and scurried from the edge. The man shouted to the others and pointed to the top. The 4 nearest the stairs started to ascend. From the other direction, the 3 soldiers dodged through the plants as fast as they could to reach the stairs. Get to the door, hissed James. Looking down the pyramid, James fired a couple shots toward the foursome, starting their ascent up the crumbling stairs. Both shots missed, but succeeded in causing the 4 to dive for cover. James smiled with satisfaction as he noted dark diagonal bruising across the face of one of the men. Looks like a snare got him, he thought. His eyes shifted back to the commander, whose eyes were piercing in his direction. The rifle lowered. James instantly pushed himself back. A burst of automatic rounds fired off and rock chips exploded where James had been a half-second earlier. Layla had joined Heather down the first flight of stairs when James ducked under the doorway. Casey was on a ledge behind the heavy rock door and started pushing it closed. James joined his brother behind the door, and the smell of ground stone seasoned the dusty air. With bursts of adrenaline, the door quickly slid into place, punctuated with the sound of 2 muffled clunks as the door closed. Casey's light revealed a copper-colored rod that could be slid into a hole in the side wall. The edge of the hole was chipped, and the rod's end was bent. After rotating the rod and jamming it into the hole, the brothers moved along the wall to the narrow stairs. Heather and Layla waited just below at the first U-turn of the ancient stairway. Heather's flashlight illuminated the stairs below the brothers. James pulled a flashlight from his pack, turned it on, and illuminated the open stairwell. A flight of stairs descended alongside to short landings at each end. "Do you guys see anything down there?" Heather's flashlight created a beam of light through the floating dust as it pierced down into the black stairwell. "No, it goes down for a bit and seems to end. Probably a passage, but I can't see it for sure." "Better head," started James, but Casey hissed him quiet. Heather and Layla froze and stared up at the brothers. Angry voices, muffled by the thick stone walls, filtered like a low buzz through the tight gaps of the door. Heather's light shifted back to the stairs below James and Casey. Casey put his right index finger to his lips and pointed to the wall. Then he motioned for them to go down reluctantly. Heather and Layla started down the next flight of stairs. When the brothers reached the second flight, a rapid succession of small thumps reverberated throughout the stair shaft, sounding like a possessed woodpecker. "What's that?" asked Layla as the brothers caught up. "They're trying to shoot their way in," answered James. "Keep moving down," urged Casey, "and hope this isn't a dead end. No pun intended." The stairs descended 4 flights before reaching bottom, where a 2-foot-wide passage opened in the wall. James strode past the others and stepped into the passageway, his light sweeping ahead. Heather, Layla, and Casey quickly followed. The passage angled gently downward and turned right after about 20 feet. It continued descending down a long ramp before it turned right again. A longer, descending straightway with a subsequent right turn followed. By this time, James was about 50 feet ahead as he moved confidently through the narrow passage. "Do you think they'll get in?" asked Layla as she shot furtive glances back up the passage. "They'll probably need more bullets," replied Casey. "The door's thick enough it'll take thousands of bullets to whittle a small opening. Then they'll still need to figure out how to open it." Thunder boomed through the passage, and the group instinctively ducked as the ground and walls shook lightly. A second later, a blast of air pushed past him. The sound of a confined avalanche crashed through the passage, followed by muted echoes. "What was that?" exclaimed Heather. Casey looked back. "I'd guess it was the more than bullets method." "Are they in?" asked Layla, her voice edged with panic. Casey's headlamp reflected through wisps of dust. "The good news is I don't think so yet. I think they just made it more difficult to get in and down. The bad news is we're not getting out that way." "I don't think we were counting on that," said Heather. Dust continued filtering through the passage as they descended 2 more straightways, each section longer than the previous. The last section widened to 4 feet as it leveled off and ended at a junction with passages to the left and right. By the time Casey, Heather, and Layla caught up, James had quickly scouted a short distance ahead in each passage and returned to the junction. James's light motioned to the left. "There's a small cave-in a short ways down there. I couldn't see much beyond it. I didn't get very far down the right side, but it keeps going and looks like the better option." "Then let's choose the right," said Heather as her eyes darted behind her. 30 seconds later, another boom thundered behind them and shook the passageway, walls, and ceiling. Dust and small debris drifted down from century-old resting places. "Hopefully they don't cause a cave-in," muttered Layla. The passage abruptly ended at a wall where it looked like the ancient builders had just decided to stop. There was no sign of any other passage. James bit his lower lip and examined the dead end before them. "I did not expect this." "Maybe the other passage had something he missed," said Heather. "With all the descents we've made, we're probably at or just below ground level by now." "Maybe," said James, sounding a little beaten. He resumed his search of the dead end, but it didn't look like there was any way past that cave-in. If there was, we'd have to dig through. "Anyone else thirsty?" interrupted Casey. He cleared his throat with a quiet cough. "I just realized how dry my throat is." "What?" asked Layla. "How could you think about stopping to drink something?" Casey shrugged as he pulled a water bladder from his pack. "We're already stopped. Sometimes solutions show up when you shift gears, and I can't think very well with my tongue sticking up to the roof of my mouth." Casey offered Layla the first drink. She exhaled exasperation and then gratefully took the water pack for a sip. She offered the water to Heather, who took it as she sat defeated on the ground. Layla resigned herself and sat next to Heather, shaking his head. James stopped his fruitless search, wiped sweat off his brow, and joined Heather and Layla on the floor. He pulled a water bladder from his own pack to drink. Heather passed Casey's water back to him. Staring at the dead end, Casey leaned against the left wall and sipped his water. A couple seconds later, he rotated to lean his back on the wall. Across from him, another dark stone wall stared back. Heather's flashlight illuminated scuffed, dusty footprints and debris on the floor. James's headlamp shone against the lower wall Casey was staring at. Casey cocked his head. Between the two lights, odd shadows shifted across the wall. One particular shadow caught his eye. He pushed himself away and stepped towards the opposite wall. Approaching the shadow, Casey discovered a small, nondescript hole. Pieces of thin mortar had broken and fallen from the vertical opening. He pulled out the remaining pieces of an ancient mortar and found the hole to be about a finger wide and 2 high. Above it, cracked plaster covered something. His fingers broke away the thin cement and brushed aside crusted dirt and dust. A faded, 4-pointed star, with smaller points protruding from in between the main 4 points, appeared, along with a few character glyphs. Layla's brown eyes watched Casey. "What is it?" "Something that looks familiar." Casey adjusted his headlamp down, fished the crystal out of his pocket, and rubbed it briskly. A few characters revealed themselves with the additional heat. In the light, he could see a matching character along the star image on the wall. James echoed Layla's curiosity. "What'd you find?" "I think the crystal is a key," said Casey, and before anyone could object, he put the crystal into the hole. "Wait!" exclaimed Layla. "That could have been our ticket for our lives." James stood and shook his head. "Hope you know what you're doing." After several seconds, Heather asked, "What do you think was supposed to happen?" Casey shrugged. "No idea, though I was hoping for a secret passage." "Can you get it out?" asked James. "Let me see if I can see it," said Casey, and he adjusted the headlamp to shine into the small hole. Light glinted off the crystal, revealing it had been rolled down a small incline and gotten stuck a couple inches back. Casey attempted to retrieve it with his fingers, but it was just out of reach. He pulled a multi-tool from his pack and extended the knife. Using the flashlight beam to see inside, he tried snagging the crystal to slide it back out. "No," groaned Casey as the crystal rolled back even further. He repositioned his headlamp, and the light beam sliced into the black hole and lit up the crystal. Brilliant colors diffracted into the small opening. "Whoa," he exclaimed, "that's cool." The wall began to vibrate with a low hum, and a dull resonance permeated into the floor. What?" started Heather, but her words fell silent when a small section of wall to the left of the hole slid back and was swallowed into darkness. The foursome stared inside. The door had slid back and rotated to the side, revealing a short passage that emptied into an expanse of blackness. Their light beams disappeared into the void beyond. "Good on you," said James. "You found a way out." "Maybe," said Heather doubtfully, "but we haven't seen what's at the other end. Looks pretty dark back there." "Well," said Casey with a glance back along the passage they had come down, "better check it out before we run out of other options." "I don't think there are other options," said James. End of chapter.